My name is Scarlett, and I will be your MC for today. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you to everyone for coming here in person and on Zoom as well. We are very grateful for your presence here with us today. Are we 3 degrees from extinction? Climate is indeed everything. As we start taking tentative steps to come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, a larger and more ominous threat is right before us on the horizon. In 2009, PAM-ACEM launched Malaysia's Green Building Index. Today, KLAFLIVE is pleased to have KLAF 2020-21 co-director, architect Boon Che Wee, to share his thoughts and ideas on greening Malaysia and how architects and designers need to play a lead role to continue driving the changes necessary to overcome climate adversity. We are also pleased to have with us today Red Hongy, all the way from London, whose work was featured on the front cover of Time magazine's Climate is Everything. She will be sharing her latest explorations in art with her team of young architectural artists comprising of Leong Chung, Wong Kai Yi, and Annice Lyn. Let us give them a round of applause. Here with us today, we also have PAM President Dato' Architect Izumi Hazani Ismail, KLAF 2020-2021 Director, Architect Dr. Tan Lok-Man. Let us welcome them. So, to kickstart our event, I would like to welcome the Director, Architect Dr. Tan Lok-Man, to give his opening remarks. Over to you, Dr. Tan.
Thank you very much, Scarlett. A very warm welcome to everyone here. This is something that has come out of COVID. This is actually a hybrid event. So you saw the awkward moment just now where we were just waiting. We had to start exactly at 6:15 because for the 100 people that have booked seats here, there are like 300 to 400 who are online. So the online people have priority over the people who sit here. So that's why there was that slight awkward moment. But how the world has changed. And when I took on the job to be Klaf Director 2020, we actually planned all the events. We had Beyond Celebration, Beyond Green, and we had planned everything for the whole of 2020. And on March 18, I think it was March 16, there was a live telecast by the Prime Minister of Malaysia. And we had 2 days. I remember we called an office meeting. We're all architects, I believe. Called a meeting in the office, and all our staff were there. I said to them, I think today the world is going to change. I didn't know what I was saying, that it would literally be exactly what I said would come to pass or has happened. And the world has truly changed. I'm still the director, stretching from 2020 to 2021. Thank God I'm finishing my term. And I just want to thank you all for supporting us. We have birthed KLAFLIVE in this period because there was a period when we didn't know whether the lockdown would last for how long. And at the same time, we felt that it was important for architects, for people in the industry, for the public to interact and to deal with architecture and to have a discourse, an ongoing discourse. Today's topic is very interesting. It was something that we birthed in 2019, architecture and art. I'm a strong believer that architects must become very good at what they do. And they have to become, in a sense, they got to be very good at their craft. But the architects that really stand out, I believe, in the future are the architects who are able to transform their craft into an art. You go to a Picasso painting, you don't go and bargain with the guy. He says it's 60 million, it's 60 million. And another guy will offer 100 million. If you don't offer 101 million, you're not going to get the piece of art. And at the same time, as architects, we hear developers or clients telling you, can you give a discount, can you give a discount? And something is wrong when we go towards production. And we need to veer ourselves back towards architecture and art. I was just talking to some of the people here that AI has come upon us. Whether you like it or not, the world has changed because of COVID. Later on, there are some young people here who have done some extraordinary things. There were 3 alphabets that nobody heard of before COVID, NFT. And for us not to understand these things is to be left behind. And as architects, people in the design industry, we cannot be left behind. We must be in the forefront. We must be dreaming bigger dreams, seeing bigger vision than anyone else. And I want to really thank the young people and of course Hongy. She's in London at the moment. Somewhere around. That's the power of technology. And the young team is here, and they are all trained as architects, and we look forward to hearing from them. I want to thank also the PAM president for supporting us through this very tough period, organizing events, canceling events, and then reorganizing events. Nobody likes to do that, but we have pulled through. I just want to do a bit of advertising now. On 5th and 6th November, we are coming back live, Datum M in KLCC Convention Center. I just checked with Victor just now, and already registrations have crossed 500 registrants. We can only take 900 people because the hall has a maximum capacity, 50% capacity because of SOPs. But we believe that architects will want to come together again and celebrate architecture and listen to architects sharing their design. This year, we are very pleased to celebrate Malaysian architects. So we have 10 Malaysian architects who will be presenting their projects. We will also have 2 exhibitions on 30 under 40, 10 years on. We have the PAM Awards exhibition. And as well as that, we will be launching a book by a firm that I started work with, UT Architect, when I first came back to Malaysia. And I worked under Kinton Lu, and that was such a privilege to work with him. He was the guy, he was the person, the late Dato Kinton Lu, who brought me into PAM. And like they say, the rest is history. And my involvement in PAM comes a lot because of this man's influence on my life. So we are launching a book called BEP 100. We are actually 100 years old this year. It's an incredible book. I've seen excerpts of it. And as well as that, there will be books for sale and there will be a book signing ceremony. So with that, I just want to also say one last thing, which is coming back to climate and green. We started Green Building Index in 2009. And to many people, it's 10, 11 years ago. And to many people, it's passé. It's green building. Everyone does green buildings now. But it is not just green buildings. It is a lot to do with our future, our climate, and saving this world. I think the tagline for today's talk was, "Are we 3 degrees of calamity?" And if you Google it, you understand what the 3 degrees means. We are now at 1.2 to 1.4 degrees. They say that if you cross to 2 degrees, you will start to see corals will die off in the oceans, in the sea. And then after that, anything after 2 degrees, you'll see the Amazonian jungle decimated by forest fires and floods. And it's something that will be very, very hard to turn back. We are that generation, and I believe that, Architect Boon was with me when we first started GBI. We are the old guys. So Boon is probably the oldest one who will be sharing tonight. And the rest, it is your world, it is your generation. And we look forward to your taking up the baton and going all out and try and save what we have failed to save. So in some sense, tonight is the people who have tried very, very hard. And we will still be around because architects die very old. They're going to live to 120. But we will be there all the way. But we want the young people to take that baton and go on and fight this fight for climate change. And that's where Hongy's front page of Time magazine was so important. And getting a Malaysian architect to be featured on the front cover of Time. I believe that it speaks a lot to us as a country, speaks a lot to us as architects with architectural training. Everyone who will be speaking up here is trained or has had training as an architect. So architecture is still the best education and the best profession in the world. I believe that. And with that, I will thank you, every one of you, for coming. And to those online, please sit back, relax, and enjoy today's talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. Next, I would like to invite the PAM President, Dato' Architect Izumi Hazani Ismail, to give his welcome address. Over to you, Dato'.
Good evening, everyone. I think Dr. Tan has mentioned almost everything. Nothing else left for me to say. Okay. Okay, selamat petang and good evening, everyone. I'm going to read this speech prepared by my assistant. Of course, I want to greet here, especially Dr. Tan Dr. Tan Lokman is the director of KLAF and past president, architect Boon Che Wee. I want to take a little bit time here to talk about Boon Che Wee. He was the one, the president when I was first become the council member. He was the one who really inspired me to continue to serve in PAM as council member. So at the end, I became the president as well. So I still refer to him, getting some advice from him as well whenever I have opportunity to talk to him, because it's very rare and very difficult to get him. Not like Dr. Tan. Most of the time I can get Dr. Tan to be with me very easily. It just happened that we are also together in the board of architects in GBI and many other committee as well. But I'm happy that today we have architect Boon Che Wee to be with us. And of course, I welcome to the Kuala Lumpur Architecture Festival, KLAFLIVE 2021. So KLAF is one of the major annual program for PAM that I think keep on growing from year to year until we have this pandemic issue. So in line with our mission with PAM, which is to promote the advancement of architecture and architecture profession for the betterment of the society. So KLAF is one of the major programs that we have in our annual calendar. We encourage members of the public to participate and partner with us towards contributing the sustainable growth of our nation. As COVID-19 pandemic has affected all of us, our KLAF events are also affected. Earlier in April this year, here at this hall, we were so happy that we believe that we are recovering from COVID-19 impacts, and we did the physical KLAF lecture here at this hall, the discussion on Merdeka 118. Okay, so we have the presentation by Carl Fender and also Hood Abu Bakar. So we thought that, okay, we are going to have more events, physical events, so we will enjoy more KLAF. So we talked about we are going to have physical datum and architects as well. But shortly after that, about 1 month later, then the government imposed MCO 3.0 with another lockdown. So, and last month, in September, we had KLAF live conducted virtually. Presentation by Stuart Mender on about the PRX. So that's how actually we have to adapt to the situation. So sometimes we thought that we want to plan to have physical event, but we have to change suddenly to virtual, even for this year. Datum we are not so sure until very last minute. I think about 1 week or 2 weeks ago only we can decide whether to have physical or to have virtual event. And it was very unfortunate that one of our bigger program, which is architect, due to very late announcement by the government, we have to call off the physical exhibition on architects, but we will still continue with architects online. Today here we are back in this physical lecture or hybrid lecture. It has been very challenging for us to plan programs under these flip-flop conditions, but we have to live with it under this current pandemic crisis. And I believe this is also happening to our daily practice when the SOP are very fluid and keeping on changing. So sometimes it's very difficult for us to make decision and to decide on our SOP for the office and also our planning for the office as well. I've been working from home for more than 1 year. So, however, we are glad to have all of you here today. I hope this is a new sign of real recovery. So I hope that there's no more lockdown after this. So I hope that the government will look at it more positively, how to allow more businesses to open and more sectors allowed to continue with their business, because we need business to move. We need project as well, especially in our profession. Looking forward, this disruption has also brought us new opportunities, mainly in digital technology. I must thank also the renowned artist, Red Hongy, and also Wong Kai Yi, for accepting our invitation to share their insight and experience with us this evening, how NFT and digital technology can bring architecture and art together to higher level. We will also have Annice Lyn with us, okay, to share her experience in digital photography, and Leong Chung will talk about his time project. When I look at the flyer, I think this must be something interesting, but I do not know what, but I'm going to stay to see his presentation. And on behalf of PAM, okay, I would like to thank our festival partner and sponsors for their continuous support in Klaf, GBI, Green Building Index and Berhad, Sika, DevCo, BlueScope, Roca, DML Products, Prima Hume Sembok Industries, and Nippon Paint Malaysia. We truly appreciate your support and contributions. Even under the current pandemic situation, you continue to be with us to make better architecture for the people. To all participants, please enjoy this Klaf lecture and the rest of the evening. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Dato. So now let's get this ball rolling. It is my honor to introduce architect Boon Che Wee. He's a professional architect based in Kuala Lumpur. He has served on the Board of Architects and Board of Town Planners Malaysia and as as president of Malaysia Institute of Architects. During his PAM presidency, he has curated the inaugural Malaysia Pavilion at the Venice Biennale and was the founding director of Kuala Lumpur Architecture Festival. Architect Boon was the chair of Green Building Index Accreditation Panel and continues to serve on the panel. He is an advocate of design and sustainable development as the key differentiators of Asia's competitiveness and has spoken widely on these subjects. So without further ado, let us give a warm welcome to architect Boon Che Wee.
Thank you, Scarlett. Thank you, Dr. Tan, and thank you, Dato' Izumi. And also thank you, Dato' Izumi, for reminding me that photograph that you saw on the flyer was taken more than 10 years ago. Even that, I still look completely out of place amongst the speakers that we have today. My involvement with KLAF 20, or now we call it KLAF 2021, was to organize a green event. And we have actually planned that last year. It was supposed to be a very ambitious 3-day event. We were determined to actually go beyond green to the environment and to show how the environment affects our wellness, both physically as well as mentally. And I was also very adamant that that event itself will feature prominently speakers of our women architects as well as our younger generation architects as well. Unfortunately, that didn't materialize. But to think of it, maybe it did materialize because throughout the entire pandemic, we've actually seen how the environment basically have actually spoken to us. We know how the environment basically can reset, refresh, and rewild itself if they were given a short respite. We have blue skies, we have greeneries all over. And the youth have clearly also spoken throughout the world, not only in the way that they have actually led the responses to the pandemic, but they have also spoken out against how some pandemic responses were totally mishandled. And of course, we have also seen how women leaders are still outshining the rest in the world in the way that they lead their country's responses. We talk about New Zealand, we talk about Taiwan, we can talk about Germany as well. So I am most pleased and honored today in this finale of the KLAFLIVE event to be able to join the group of speakers that we have today and to moderate the sessions later on, because after having seen or heard so many speakers over other KLAFLIVE events, Today, we finally have 2 women speakers and 4 young architects who actually speak to us and share with us their views, how they basically address the climate, architecture, as well as art in their own ways. Let's get things rolling. Salam, maybe can you get on to our slides today. The full title of today's event probably is Climate and Architecture, Climate and Art, and Architecture and Art. We shorten it to Architecture and Art just to encapsulate everything that Dr. Tan have actually briefed you just now. I will take the first part, which is how climate have actually influenced our approach to architecture. And Hongy and her team later on will show you how they have actually addressed climate with their art, as well as how they approach art from the perspective of an architect as well. Some people have actually claimed that the way that we approach green building is because of our guilt, because the way that we have actually mishandled our design from a very long time ago. The scenes that you have seen in Hongy's time project, the catastrophe that we have actually caused to the world, it's not something that is going to be happening in future. It is already happening today. The match was struck a long time ago already. But just as how in one snippet of Hongy's video showing the scenes of how they actually built the time project, how the world, according to the video, can actually be rebuilt by putting one matchstick back one by one. We also believe green building can actually address the same situations that we are handling or facing in the world now at the moment. So instead of seeing green building as the architecture of guilt, at the time when we started this, we prefer to see green building as the architecture of hope. Hope, definitely, because we actually have the knowledge. We also have the technology. And most importantly, because we have the opportunity to do something very different. And some would say, according to the latest report, this is probably the last opportunity we've ever had to actually change the situations that we are facing now in the world today. We also have the opportunity because at that time, our industry in Malaysia were very open to this idea of us handling this one, this issue immediately. So whether it's actually architecture of guilt or architecture of hope, all we know is that actually we must start now. You know, there's a saying that says the best time to plant a tree in the world was actually probably 20 or 30 years ago. But the next best time is today. So that was what we were feeling at that time as well. We can continue to argue how green building can help or cannot help to save the world. But we know that that is actually the best thing to do or the right thing to do as well. And that's what we did. And that's what the architects were doing at that time. We rally everyone that we know in the industry. Of course, we rally the architects among us, primarily because the industry is also quite frustrated that there was a lot of greenwashing in the industry. Everybody is claiming they are building green, and everybody is also claiming they are development sustainable. There were also a number of green ratings that we believe are not also suitable for our environment, because they were modeled over a temperate climate and not particularly suitable to our environment as well. So it all started in September 2008, as Dr. Tang was actually mentioning just now, that PAM has set itself to building an international benchmark for green building in Malaysia to address all the greenwashing as well as the confusions in the world. We also have the opportunity and everything seems to work very well at that time that we actually have the support of the entire industry. All the presidents came together and decided that it will be led by the architects and the engineers, because we were the professionals who knows the buildings as well as the development better. And the tool was actually launched in May 2009. From September 2008 and May 2009, within that short span of time, we basically have actually launched an international rating that is suitable for us to use in Malaysia. We were very adamant at that time as well, because we have discussed with 2 other rating in the world so that they can actually share their experiences with us. One's of actually Green Mark in Singapore, and one was actually Green Star in Australia. But we took the Green Stars approach because we believe that would be the right approach to do. They have actually told us that everything that we need to know is actually on the internet. But the best thing for us to do is actually to formulate a rating that is actually more suitable for our climate, because you cannot just copy another climate, another rating and use it in our environment, because it wouldn't just be right, because climate and environment are all localized. So it must also be suitable for our resources, you know, and most importantly, it must suit our development priorities. For example, transportation definitely is a key issue in our development, but not so probably in Singapore as well. The industry have also trusted us, the professionals, to actually run this as an independent and transparent rating for them to actually believe in as well. Most importantly, in our approach to the entire rating, we have also wanted it to be very broad-based. We want everybody to buy in. We don't want to force it upon them like some other national rating has actually done. We want it to be voluntary. That means you must believe in it. This is something that Green Star has also done very well. It wasn't really very much accepted when they were launched, but now it's the consumer and the public who's actually demanding the developer that they want a Green Star rated development. So we wanted the same thing as well, and we wanted that voluntary effort to be incentivized as well. Most importantly, I think we must have a benchmark that is actually internationally recognized. So until today, Green Building Index is still the only internationally recognized national rating in Malaysia as well. I mean, it's easier said than done. It is not smooth sailing, of course. There were a lot of balances that we have done. You know, after we actually have the draft set out, there are parties who will actually argue that we have not been stringent enough. We are not doing enough to actually save the environment. And there are, of course, parties who actually claim that this is too difficult to achieve. This will be impossible to achieve. Of course, it's always not easy to actually put the architects and the engineers to actually work together. You probably don't have 2 architects agreeing with each other. Now you have to have the architects to agree with the engineers and the engineers agreeing with the architects as well. But we managed to do that. Everybody at that time was very happy to put down all their conditions, all their egos, or whatever other situations that they are not happy with, because we have one common goal. We know that this is not only for Malaysia, this is for the world, and this is for the earth. And this is the right thing to do at that point in time. And that's what we did. We launched Green Building Index for real. Real basically is my tag at that time to summarize everything that we were doing at that time. For rating, for education, for advocacy, as well as for leadership as well. And that's what we did. We rate buildings. That is actually the main functions of Green Building Index, to ensure that there's no greenwashing in the industry, to ensure that the public get what they have been promised for, you know, when they are told that they are buying a green building. Actually, there are currently now consumers who are actually calling up Green Building Index office and question whether we have actually rated a certain buildings green, because they discover that the green building is actually, the building is actually not doing this, not doing that. So we are happy to actually receive this kind of inquiries, because it shows that the buy-ins that we wanted, the broad-based buy-in that we wanted, has actually been realized. So as of September, or the end of September, we now have almost 600 projects already certified. And this doesn't include those projects that we have continued to recertify after every 3 years as well. In total, okay, we are talking about millennial talks now at the moment, 25 million square meter of gross floor area, or to the rest of us is 270 over million of square feet of green spaces that we have actually certified. Not a small achievement, you know, for a rating, although it's actually only 10 years that we have. This is a spread of the projects that we have actually certified, and they look very, very closely to, but surprisingly, to what we have already envisaged. The highest number of projects to be certified, of course, is actually the non-residential projects, new buildings that is being built now at the moment. And the next one, of course, is actually new buildings for residential projects that were actually being built. But you will notice that there's a switch here at the moment because we tend to build a lot more floor areas for residential projects. So residential projects actually take the lead, surprisingly, among all the projects that we have actually certified in terms of gross floor areas that we have actually certified. Non-residential is next, followed by other existing buildings and industrial buildings that we have actually certified as well. This spread actually is exactly what we wanted to do. We wanted a broad-based buy-in. We have been telling a lot of the projects who came in for certifications, go for the low-hanging fruits first. Get your project certified and make sure that you have actually done the best practices, because by doing that, you can already get certified as a green building itself. So 375 projects out of 585, or about 64%, were actually at certified level. We have always said, once you have done your certifications, if you are good enough, just go a little bit more, you will get silver. So 12% actually gone for silver. The other one that had actually aimed for gold, told them that if you can put in a little bit of effort more, you can actually get platinum. So 20% is actually gold, 4% is actually platinum out of 585 projects that we have actually certified as well. The next thing that we have continued to do, or actually we started doing this before we even rated one building, is actually educations. We have started a course called Green Building Index Facilitator course. For 12 years, we have actually over nearly about 50 sessions of courses. We have trained over 2,000 trainees. 1,005 of them have actually graduated, and out of these graduates, 1,000 of them have continued to register themselves as a facilitator to help other buildings and other projects get rated as a green building. Most importantly, to continue to facilitate the design and the development and the constructions of green building as well. We started this long before we have actually rated any building. And I think that is actually the best approach to be adopted for anybody who still wants to start another rating to it. But the other one that we have continued to do is actually a consultation sessions that we have continued to organize almost every 2 weeks without stop since 2009. These are the sessions that we actually address all the queries from all the applicants, as well as general query from the public who wants to know whether their buildings have actually been rated correctly or not as green building. The third thing that we have actually done is a lot of advocacy. We used to be traveling throughout Malaysia to every state to actually talk to all authorities and all stakeholders as far as green building is concerned. And we are very happy to show the outcome that we have actually achieved. We have green building index rated buildings throughout the whole of Malaysia now, except probably Perlis. If anybody who's actually developing anything in Perlis, probably talk to us and we'll see whether we can actually cover all states. Now, we are always happy to see a green rated building in Kelantan and Terengganu, more so than having a platinum building in KL, because that is quite expected. But to be able to spread the message over to Kelantan, Terengganu, Kedah, as well as Sabah and Sarawak, that is the thing that we want to achieve as well. That is a broad-based buy-ins that we want throughout the entire exercise that we have actually been doing. And recently, we have actually covered Brunei as well, because there have been a number of inquiries coming from Brunei for them to be rated using Green Building Index as well. So it's clearly an internationally recognized rating as far as Green Building Index is concerned. The other broad-based approach that we have done is actually to make sure that we cover all variety of developments throughout Malaysia. As of today, we have actually launched 18 tools that basically cover everything that you can possibly imagine, design, develop, or build in Malaysia. By the end of this year, we'll probably launch utility tools covering all the infrastructures that projects that is actually looking for to be green rated as well. Dr. Jaya will get this ready, right, by December? Dr. Jaya, the co-chair for Green Building Index Accreditation Panel, is here as well amongst our audience. This shows the variety of Green Building Index rated projects currently. And you can see that we have actually done airport as well as wet market. We have done mosques and other religious buildings. We have done museum. We have also done gallery. And this is a broad-based approach that we were envisioning. And now we are actually realizing it. That means we cover all aspects of buildings. Recently, we have also rated petrol stations, fast food outlets. We have also rated toll plazas. We have even rated sewage treatment plants, buildings as well. So it shows that this can be applied to all buildings if you want to continue to develop green. Of course, we will continue to encourage applicants or the parties to have their green building rated. And this statistic that we have managed to collate over the last 10 years basically dispel all the misconceptions that it is difficult to build green. Because for certified level, we have always said that you don't have to put in additional resources if you have actually started from day one and planned correctly in your design. Because all buildings can be green if you actually approach it from the first principle as well. Going from silver to gold and platinum is only 6%, which is actually much lower than what the public has actually been told all these years as well. And of course, all these green costs are actually, if you qualify, entitle you to tax incentive as well. We believe that we have been leading the industry in Malaysia as far as the development of green building is concerned. It's an effort that has actually been taken up by the architects and specifically PAM to drive the entire industry to actually address the climate issues that we are actually facing. Over the 12 years, we have actually managed to achieve a lot of milestones. But we also believe that, 12 years is actually a long time. If you've actually started architectural course 12 years ago, today you're probably already a very experienced architect working in the industry or an experienced engineer working in industry as well. If you just graduated 12 years ago, you're probably in the leadership position now, either on your own or in your firm. And so you can actually direct as far as how you want to approach the design of your buildings and your planning of your development is concerned in the green aspects. So what we have achieved today are basically all thanks to the volunteers that we have had throughout the entire 12 years. The way that we have been able to actually sustain our development are through the effort of the volunteers as well. Dr. Izumi, Dr. Tan, Dr. Jaya, that is actually sitting at the back. If I miss anyone, please let me know. And some of them are actually here as well. But it is a very heartening exercise when we see how the applicants are really keen, to actually change the way that they have actually been designing as well as been constructing. So, how I mentioned at the earlier part of my presentations, how the pandemic have actually brought about a different generations or a different take to the way that we address our crisis. We have actually mentioned how the youth have actually taken the pandemic issue with their own responses in their own ways. And the women leaders have also handled the pandemic crisis much effectively and much better than a lot of us, we must admit. So we are now looking also into a new balance as far as how we drive the efforts in greening Malaysia. We are looking at all of you, or most of you, who is actually in this audience as well as in the Zoom conference now at the moment, to come join us in the effort that we want to drive as far as greening Malaysia is concerned. As what Hongy's team have actually shown in the videos that they have actually published, that to burn the world, you probably need to only light up one match, and it will extend to the entire world. And there was a snippet in the video that have actually shown, to rebuild the world, you can also do it one matchstick at a time. So we are also saying at this point in time that greening Malaysia is also greening the earth. Whatever we do here will also affect how the Earth responds to the crisis that we have. But most importantly, don't be daunted by all the acronyms that you have heard thrown to you, like BEI, like OTTV, like RTTV. You can actually address this very easily as far as the architects is concerned, because we have always convinced that if you address the building by first principles in the design, you can actually address all the green issues without even having to consider whether it's actually RTTV, OTTV, or BEI calculations. But most importantly, I think what we are doing now, as far as Green Building Index is concerned, is we will focus still on certifying one project at a time, because we know by doing that, we are actually greening Malaysia or greening the Earth one building at a time as well. So as long as, we started 12 years ago, if we have heard the naysayers, we've probably not done anything. But in 12 years, we have actually certified almost 600 projects. All that is actually done by just certifying and designing and constructing and developing one building at a time. So please join us if you're keen. This is a QR code for you to scan. We welcome all participations. All activities or events for Green Building Index, since we are sustainable agencies, are all conducted online. Even our submissions are also done online. Recently, for the last 2 years, we have also been able to do our inspections online as well. So it is all a very effective and sustainable exercise as far as the whole Green Building Index initiative is concerned. I will be staying back later on to address any issues that you will have as far as Green Building Index is concerned. For now, I think most of us will probably be very keen to hear how Hongy and her team actually address the climate issue as architects in their own ways as well. I'll leave that to Scarlett to introduce them. Thank you very much for your attention, both here as well as on Zoom.
Thank you, Architect Boon. Next, I'm honored to introduce our next speaker, Red Hongy. Hongy is a Chinese-Malaysian contemporary artist who makes work expressing her heritage and Chinese diasporic consciousness. Known as the artist who paints without a paintbrush, she creates mixed media installations by reinterpreting everyday materials through the accumulation of objects. By combining traditional craftsmanship and digital technology, she creates works that consider perceptual habits and preconceptions on the chosen objects and subjects, expressing the themes of women and race. Her work has been exhibited across the world and featured on multiple publications, including the Time cover, and collectors of her work include JP Morgan Chase Bank and Jackie Chan. So without further ado, please put your hands together to welcome Red Hongy.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm getting my time zones a little bit incorrect because I'm dialing in from the UK. Thank you so much, Pam, and everybody for Pam for inviting me, KLAFLIVE for inviting me, and for everyone for tuning in, whether in person or online. Today, I'm really excited to be speaking with to all of you. Not just because it's a community of architects, so there is that link and familiarity, but also because I will be inviting some members of my team to talk about some of the projects that we've worked on. And also these members of my team are architecture grads. So I think that would be pretty exciting for me. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask in the message section, and we'd be more than happy to chat. So let me just share my screen and go through what I'll be talking about today. All right, can everyone see my screen? Do I see a nod in the audience? Yeah, okay, great. All right, so hello, my name is Red Hongy. It's truly an honor to be able to speak to a community of architects today. And if you're wondering why my name is Red, it's because my surname Hong sounds like home. I'm from Sabah. If anyone's from East Malaysia, hello. So I grew up in Kota Kinabalu. I've always been a bit of a tomboy, outdoorsy person. I've always loved art since I was a kid. I've always loved building things. Maybe because there was not that much to do in KK, so the outdoors was my go-to place. When it came to university, I decided to choose architecture because although I've always loved art and my parents have always encouraged me to go that route, I think when I was about to go to uni, my parents were like, please don't go the full artist career thing. You're not going to be able to survive. You're not going to be able to eat. So choose something kind of in the middle line. And my dad's from the construction industry. He's a structural engineer. So I decided to choose architecture. And I studied in Australia, graduated with a master's of architecture. And then after graduation, I applied to firms all around the world. Australia was in a recession at the time, so I didn't get a job offer there, but I got a few job offers in China specifically. And I chose to join an architecture firm called Hassel. They at the time, we did a lot of skyscraper projects. We did a lot of high-rise residential projects. And I really enjoyed the working culture there. And my secret mission was to actually join them for 1 year and then be transferred back to the Australian office. But I ended up staying there for 3 years because I felt that China was just moving at such a fast pace and there was so much new technology, new ideas that were coming out from there. I just wanted to stay on longer. These are just some of the projects that I worked on. On the left, it's a shopping mixed-use shopping area in Hangzhou. And on the right, that was a hospital project that we worked on. Sadly, it was never realized. I thought it would be built. But yeah, those were really good experiences. But the other thing that really caught my attention, other than these building projects and the skyscrapers in Shanghai, was really the people there. I think I was just like kind of jolted awake because I've never seen life lived that way. I've never seen people, recycling men, collect garbage and pile them up into a mountain like this. I've never seen furniture sold on the roadside like this. I thought it was a really creative way of displaying objects in bulk. And I think that was what inspired me to look at objects and manufacturing very differently. I was also really inspired by the people there and the way they lived in the older quarters of Shanghai. These houses have been built for about almost hundreds of years, and they're lived by different generations. And in each house, there would be like 4 to 5 families living there. But more and more, these places, these old quarters are torn down to make way for new buildings. So I guess at that time, I was really inspired, and I felt because everything was so fresh, I knew that one day things wouldn't be fresh to me anymore. So I wanted to, I guess, create art or write a journal or something like that to remember my time there. And at that time, Yao Ming was in the news a lot because he just retired from the NBA. So I thought, oh, it would be great to document, I think, portraits that were featured on the Chinese news a lot, because I also felt that the people that were portrayed on Chinese media versus Western media or media outside of China were very different. And I wanted to show my friends what was going on in China. So I went to the sample market. So there are all these like manufacturing markets where you can buy things at a cheap price in bulk. And with my graduate salary, I could afford to buy a little bit more than when I was a student. So I started to buy objects and materials and then turn these portraits into, I guess, into a 2 to 3 minute video and put it online. And then one of these videos started to be circulated around and it went viral. And that was when I started to get, I guess, recognition or following online, which is quite bewildering to me. But I guess that was an intro into how the media and the internet at the time worked, and it still works that way. This is how fast information can be shared around. This was Jay Chow with coffee cup stains. This was Zhang Yibo with socks. And then my neighbors came to help me out with this. So I think what I learned there was that art has the power to connect people. I didn't force them to come and help me. They were totally curious about what I was doing, and there was no goal. But we ended up putting this together in a little alleyway in Shanghai. So I did these projects during the weekend when I had time after my architecture stuff was done. Within the company, I think our boss at the time really encouraged us to look for side projects. So every Friday, 3 members of the company, so it was about 120 people, 3 people from the company would come and give us short presentation of what they like to do outside of work. And I thought that was a very healthy culture, and they tried to keep to a 9 to 6, 9 to 5 window. So everyone was kind of had time to do their thing as well. So this was my thing after work. And then, so yeah, eventually it led to, I guess, Jackie Chan noticing my work too. And I think that's the power of the internet. You don't know who would be able to stumble across your work if it's circulated online. So yeah, so after that, I took a leap to go into art full time. And really how that happened was my boss at that time noticed that I was working on these projects. And then he asked me to come in for a meeting, a private meeting. And he said, have you given this a thought? Do you want to do this full time? And then I said, oh no, is this your way of firing me? And he said, no, I think that, there might be potential in this, and do you want to explore it? So I think I give a lot of credit to him for really believing in me. So I think if you have your own teams and you have, I guess, fresh grads in your team, when I think about who I was at that time, it really meant a lot for a mentor to really believe in me. But on the flip side, when I told my parents that, my mom cried right away. She said, "You have a master's in architecture. What are you doing? You're gonna your life is done." But she's like, she has a different opinion today. But I'll tell you what happened after I went full time into art. I think architecture will always be my DNA. So how I operate, how I approach a brief is very, very architectural, and a lot of these projects are actually very, very planned strategically. There's a lot of computer work, there's a lot of CAD work, modeling online, a lot of documentation that goes behind it. I've been fortunate to work with clients, I guess, in several countries around the world. So this was for JP Morgan Chase, and it was featured as a 30-second ad in North America. You can watch it online as well. It's basically made of tea leaves, and it portrays a strong animal, a tiger. And then this was for Huawei, and it was a installation featuring one of their products, and it was installed in Hong Kong. This was for Google Singapore, and it portrays, it's made of bamboo weaves with charcoal and soot on it. And it portrays the before and after of, not before and after, the beginnings and the present day Singapore. And this is a personal project of mine that I created, I think in 2019. It features 10 vases, Chinese vases, and all of it has themes based around women, and it's all made of eggshells. So I guess I've always been fascinated by materials and storytelling through materials. Because of my architectural background, I felt like I could never go away from playing around with materiality, with textures and things like that. So I guess that was how I found this language. So going into the year 2020, I think we all know how that turned out. I had a lot of plans to, exhibit around the world and all that kind of thing. And then 2020 happened, and we all know what happened. So I found myself in lockdown in KK right after Chinese New Year. And I think I went through a really kind of a downtime at that time, because there were a lot of changes in my life. And I felt that there were a few projects that I really wanted to work on that were like canceled right away. So yeah, so I think that time, in hindsight, that time of just being idle and staying at one spot was really good for me. But at that time, I was really going through a lot of turmoil inside. This is one of the pieces that I created to really express that. And I guess the idea behind it was that, you know, it was all me dressed in white, and then this canvas in white, and then paint just splashing around, almost kind of like a murder scene where it's like everything is destroyed and I have to like pick myself back up and reinvent myself. So at that time, I also started to think about my career. Do I really want to do this thing where I jump around and take up projects around the world? Is it actually going to be used? Like, is it going to actually develop my career? And I started to look at other artists who I really look up to, like Takashi Murakami. You might recognize his bright Murakami flowers. And I know that these artists have a lot of people helping them out in their team. And they do it in a very, like, it's almost like running an architecture firm. So I think the perception that most people would have about artists is that they're alone creating a thing in their studio by themselves, and they're really sad. But these artists, they run massive exhibitions, and they have a very structured team helping them with all sorts of things, from production to social media to fabrication. And this is the digital team. And so that's Takashi. Taiko Chang is another one who I really admire. He uses gunpowder for his artworks, part performance art, also paintings and installations. This is his office in New York. And this is when he's creating his gunpowder pieces, and I guess the team around him, even the video crew. And finally, I really drew inspiration from Olafur Eliasson. You might recognize his Tate installation on the left, and it addresses climate change as well. I think it's called Giant Sun, I think. It's about, I guess, how the climate is changing, and a lot of his other installations also address the climate. So yeah, if you're not familiar with his works, do look into it. And this is his team. He's got a massive team behind him. A lot of them are architects as well. If you go down to their names, it goes head of design, production, development, etc., etc. So I guess, and I think the other thing was I looked into their culture. So Olafur, because he's a climate advocate, I think during lunchtime, they eat predominantly vegan dishes. And that inspired my team, myself, who I will be introducing all of you to. We started a thing called Meatless Mondays, I think, and it went into Meatless Tuesdays, something like that. Don't know if it's very effective, but we definitely started playing around with it. And yeah, so I guess why I decided to look into this was I thought about restructuring my career and how I work. And I realized that if I really wanted to refine my work and make my work stronger, I had to have a team around me instead of bouncing around. So I moved to KL in July, and I set up a studio in Zhongshan building in November. And then I put a call out to I guess, grow a team. And I specifically looked for designers / architects because I felt that we share a similar language, and it's just I feel like we would understand each other better. And a lot of my works have to be fabricated. We do have to have drawings and models and things like that. And it would be like, I think in the past I've worked with some fine artists as well. I think they can come on board a bit later, but I knew that initially for the core team, I would have to work with a similar DNA, which is architecture. So some of them came on board who you will meet later. And so this is what we created in the year 2021. I'm only going to show a couple of slides. The first client that came to me was Hoshin, a Japanese restaurant. We created a 5-meter long artwork made of stamped vegetables. I think someone would be talking about it later a bit. The other one was Famous Food Street Eats by Resorts World in Las Vegas. We created a kopitiam uncle installation made of tea bags on the left and a Lucky Cat installation fabricated from stainless steel, I think, on the right. And this was a war veteran themed project that was created with soil. We created this about, I think, 2 months ago. This, you would know, is Time Magazine. They approached me in, I think, in February, and then we got it out in April, and it was also done by a team of us. This is our NFT project, which we would be talking about later as well. If you're not familiar with crypto, this is Doge, as in Dogecoin Doge. And yeah, crypto was something that I started to, I guess, to learn about early this year when I got to know a bunch of crypto people. And they, I guess, educated me on it. And I thought it was really interesting that a lot of the new generation are embracing a new way of investment. And I really looked into this, and I believe that this crypto NFT will really change the way we engage with each other in the future. This is an exhibition that we'll be doing in December. Do come over. It's in Zhongshan Building, where we invited 100 artists to create just a small 10 by 10 cm artwork. And so it's accessible because it's 100 ringgit only, and it's right before Christmas. So I think other than all these projects, I really wanted to work with community here and to also work with other artists as well. And these are the faces behind my team. They are, there's 4 of them who are my core team. The other 4 joined us when Chandana put out a grant to get interns or apprentices to join us. The other 2 that are not in this photo are Annice and Kern. So they take photographer and videographer. They're usually documenting, so you might not see their faces as often, but documentation is such a core part of my my practice. So that's why we got Annice to come in to talk about that later. So yeah, without further ado, I would love to, I guess, specifically invite Chung here. Chung and Kai Yi, who were my first few members who joined us, and also Annice to come on board to share with you about the projects that we've been working on. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Hongy, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Chung. I studied my architecture master in I studied my architecture in Germany during my master. My work focused a lot on storytelling, and I believe that floor plan is not always the solution to everything. So instead of spending a lot of time thinking where should my parking goes and stuff, I did a series of collages to explain my ideas and prove my answer. So the point is, you don't always need a complete information to in either to create like proceed with your statement. Knowing what fails is actually part of the progress itself. So on the other side of me, I'm a very technical person, and I like to do hand-on stuff. This is a project that titled Designed to Robotic Production. And what we did here is to research how future building can be built using robotic production. Everything is all about constraint, material, and tools. Here's another one that, like, some of the few pavilions that we built during my master program is like studying how to create a pavilion using cardboard to create all this cantilever structure. And then after my master program, I worked a year in Berlin doing a lot of fun stuff and more weird stuff. During the 3 years living in Germany, I also go around volunteering to build houses, cabins, and for some of them are actually architects themselves. Then after that, I decided to come back to Malaysia roaming around looking for a job. But I think people are confused when they realize that I actually completed my master without an actual building. So while waiting for answer from my application, I started to build furniture for my room, and then followed by some commission project. After that, so I created this page cabin sheet to somehow document whatever I did. Then there's one day I just saw this post from Hongy that get all over the internet, saying that he's searching for a team. So I just then I start researching about her, and I think we have. It's aligned to the interest that I have. So, and I've been working for her for around a year now, and I think it's very interesting throughout the year working with a lot of projects that she already showed just now. So one of the projects is this Time magazine, and I think everyone already know it. So one day, Hongi just came in and said, D.W. Pine, which is the creative director of Time, contact her for a book cover, tackling the issue climate is everything. The first thing that came to my mind is, something that we're doing is gonna be selling millions of copies. Yeah. Then, as you know, our studio didn't have any paintbrush. So how we work is very much like a designer. We started looking for ideas and certainly looking for material for the artwork. These are some sketches that we did to show some causes and side effects of climate change. Then we come to thought, having us to living through all this pandemic time currently, we see how people actually come together globally to tackle this urgency together. So we thought climate change as a global issue, we should also treat it as a same manner. So we have this idea of creating a world map where show everyone is involved in this, and when one part is affected, everyone will be affected. So from there, we playing with the density of the matchstick so that we can get just enough to create the image and also create that chain reaction from the matchstick. We also tilted the artwork so that we tilted the artwork so to reduce the height of the fire and to slow down the reaction. But more importantly, what we want to stop is the fire from burning through the artwork itself. So we try out fire retardant paint. We actually burn at a part for a good 6 to 8 minutes to make sure that the fire won't go through or lit up the whole piece. And the result after the result, we are quite confident that the fire will stay where it intended to be. So after all the mock-up or all the experiment, we started working the real artwork in a computer. We pre-mark all the holes for the matchsticks and send it for laser cut. Pre-laser cutting the hole will set the density of the matchstick consistent throughout the artwork, and also save us time without having us to wait for the glue to dry. We just put it into the board. And also working on a computer, we can know exactly how much matchstick that we need so that we don't order less or having too much material to waste. So we have a fabricator who helped us to put all these things together, build a frame for it, and make sure that both sides of the artwork are painted with layers of fire retardant paint for double warranty. So here comes the fun part. Every day we'll just come in, looking at a 50,000 pre-cutted hole, and we have 6 in the team. Every day we just sticking matchstick one after another for around 2 weeks. We also cut the height of the matchstick to create a contour while referring to the topography map to create some sort of familiarity to the audience. So here is, we are in Kongsi, KL. We are now fixing and doing the last touch up and taking photos before we light it up. So then we wait for the queue and then we light up the part that we assigned to. Then we just watch the world burn. Yeah. I think it's very interesting to work with and artwork that changes so much through just 6 minutes. And most importantly is how the message can be conveyed to such a wide audience. So moving forward, this is a war veteran project that we did for a documentary for Astro that has been revealed on Malaysia Day. The title of the documentary is called 𝗔𝗥𝗖𝗛𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗘 𝗔𝗥𝗧. And the purpose of this documentary is to tell the story of all these unsung heroes that have sacrificed a lot for what we have now. I might be not paying attention in class, but this is something that we don't really learn a lot from school. And the younger generation now are kind of unaware of it or already taken for granted for it. So from this project, we wanted to really tell this story and make them known again. So Alvin from Naga DBB, which is the man in blue, wanted Hongy for this project. Is the one who always come into the studio and tell us like new stories about all these veterans that he met. He also happened to be one of the veteran's son, which is the one in maroon, Major Andrew, and beside him was his wife, and the one at the middle with the hat is Major Wong, and of course Hongy taking the selfie. So during the meetings, Hongy have this chance to really like hold on some inspiring stuff that we don't normally see. The first one is on the left is the bullet that actually shot through Major Wong's chest during a mission, and the right side is the dog tag that they wear. And also we saw millions, like thousands of letters that Major Andrew wrote to his wife during his mission. And of course, a lot of photos, and from a lot that we actually that caught our eyes are these 3. The first one is a group of veterans with a plane that they flew in. The second one is Major Andrew during his wedding day, and the third one showing the realities of war. So from the title 𝗔𝗥𝗖𝗛𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗘, you can already guess it. The material that come to our mind first is soil, and it's something that we want to work on. So literally, Tana, another word is land, is what the veteran actually fought for. So from the beginning of the project, we started sourcing material from all over Malaysia, the soil from all over Malaysia, from Peninsula, Sabah, and Sarawak, from places that the veterans have fought. So after that, we started playing with the material, trying out different tone, different grain, and also perhaps different way of binding the material together. Then at the end, we decided to just go with 5-tone to create the image that inspired us. So for the artwork, we started fixing the photo because these photos are taken during the 60s. We need to sort of process it to highlight some of the parts and divided the image into 5 different tones. Then we transferred the image onto the board and painted it to somehow mark the tone. Then we worked from one tone at a time. So we started with the darkest to the lightest. So for the part that we want a soy, that's how we describe it when we paint with soy. So we apply resin to it and just cover it with soy. And then we just flip it over to remove the excess. Then only the parts that sticks on are the one with resin. It's a very satisfying process. It's like playing sand art during our kids' time. So here it is. There's 3 artwork that we did. Each of them have different story. So this is telling that a group of war veterans that they train in, and from this artwork we get to know like the life of the veterans, how they come together, and the brotherhood within them, regarding any background or where they're from. The next one is showing Major Andrew on his wedding day with the text, "My bride let me run off the battle on our wedding day. She knew my country always comes first." We were told that the wife are actually sort of the true hero behind all this, because they are the one that sacrifice a lot to really support their husband to all this mission, knowing that they might not be able to come back one day. And there's one special thing about this art piece is that letter that embedded into the soil itself. This letter is from Major Andrew, who wrote to his wife for 11 years throughout the mission. And what stood out to me is how Major Andrew actually mentioned his son in almost every letter, and how he missed out the important moment of his life, part where he can't even witness his son's first footstep, or his son even call him uncle for the first met. So we think those are something that we really want to show to the audience. And the third one is showing the realities of war. This artwork is, the texture of this artwork is more compared to the other one, because we really want to show the audience that how it feels when the veterans fighting in the forest. So how much they sacrifice for just to protect whatever that we have now standing here. So yeah, these are the 3 images, that 3 artwork that we did, and at the end of the day, we actually virtually show it to the veterans through Zoom, and it's really incredible to see their reaction after the presentation. They are just silent and then started hearing and started to really express themselves. I think for me, I think it's the first time they feel appreciated. From what we know, when we interviewed them, they never wanted us to thank them or anything. But then I think appreciation is the least that we can do. Maybe I pass my mic to Kai Yi.
And I believe everyone here kind of like familiar to this piece. This piece is done by Hongy back in 2015, about 6 years ago, for the World Economic Forum, and titled 𝗔𝗥𝗖𝗛𝗧𝗘𝗖𝗧𝗨𝒧𝗧. And it was an installation with 20,000 suspended T-Rex. And 5 years later, Resorts Work and Thing has contacted us to commission a piece for their upcoming for their upcoming resort in Las Vegas, and they wanted us to recreate something that is similar to their direct piece, and they want to place that new artwork in their new resort, in their food court in the resort. And the brief is very clear. It's like the client want us to use tea bag, and so we almost need like a good story or a good narrative to tell a message that we want to convey. So after some discussion, we decided to talk about kopitiam culture, especially in Malaysia. So we did quite a lot of research about that, and like research on the history and the social background of it to really understand it. And a fun fact, did you know that kopitiam culture has been around Malaysia for more than 150 years? So can I take off my mask? I could barely breathe, oh my goodness. Okay, so the building next to it, at the corner lot, the orange color, is one of the oldest kopitiam in Kuala Lumpur. And then next to it, it's very familiar if you guys have Neko before. So this is almost like a really good representation of how millennial cafes are taking over all these like old kopitiams nowadays, which is really sad, but then it's happening. And we would like to address this issue. So we actually visited to that kopitiam that I mentioned just now. So we really want to talk to that kopitiam owners, the kopitiam uncle and kopitiam auntie, and to really understand their predicament or their struggle. And we really surprised that the pandemic really hits them really hard. And even though like everyone is smiling, but actually they are not really doing well at that time. So we decided to use the power of art to voice out the struggle of the kopitiams and to really highlight the beauty of the heritage and to remind all of us that, that our past and our roots. So throughout the conversation, we actually have our photographer Annice to go around and snap some photos, and we really get inspired of the action of making tea, and we find that it's really iconic too. So that we really want to capture that moment. So we quickly like draft out a really rough sketch by Hongy, and we kind of like brainstorm in the kopitiam of how we envision the whole artwork will look like. So this is the behind the scene of that behind the scene. So this is almost like the gist of that whole project. Disclaimer, although we say we don't use paintbrush, but we do use a lot of computer softwares. For example, we use like Photoshop, Illustrator, SketchUp, Rhino, and recently we also learned quite a couple of new softwares like Blender, Keyshot and Touch Designer. Yeah, those are really good. And so for this particular project, I mainly use Adobe Illustrator to pixelate the images and also to turn the images into the codes. So you can see like the crazy codes like floating around. They are actually like 1 to 7. So 1 represents the lightest tone, and then 7 represents the darkest tone. And this is how we calculate how many tea bags that we need and how many tea bags or how many tones for each tone. No, how many amount for each tone. Yeah. And after that, we do a lot of experiments. So we use additives and dyes to dip and dye the tea bags to mimic the color of the natural tone of the tea bag color. And also we experiment on like layering the tea bags to get the kind of pixels that we want to get, like the size of the tea bags is actually created by the way we layer the tea bag. Besides that, we actually work with a fabricator called Chua, our good friend. So he helps a lot of working on the technical side of the project, such as the steelwork, like load bearing calculation, and the joinery, the welding part, steel welding things, and mostly the structures, because we really want to ensure the structure is solid enough to hold a massive artwork, because even though they're tea bags, but they're actually quite heavy. So what we're doing there is actually we are like tying the strip of tea bags using cable tie onto the wire mesh. And like throughout the process, even though it's a bit labor intensive, to be honest, but it's very beautiful to smell the tea, because when we start to tie it up, you can actually smell the tea is getting stronger and stronger, and it's very beautiful to even feel and touch the tea. And it kind of looks like a rug, isn't it? And we want to create the kind of like the optical illusion for the visitor who look at the artwork. It's like from afar, they will say, okay, it's a rug. But when they walk, like approach to that artwork, they will feel like, oh crap, oh wow, it's made out of tea bags. It's like, wow, kind of like, create that kind of feeling. And finally, we have this 18,000 tea bags of the artwork. Isn't it beautiful? And it is really, really rewarding to see. Yes, clap. Thank you. And it's really, really, oh, go back. Yeah, it's really, really rewarding to see the final artwork and on such a massive scale. And on the flip side, it took a lot of blood and sweat, not really blood lah, but a lot of sweat and tears, happy tears, to build this wonderful piece from scratch with wonderful people, wonderful team, really talented team, and under supervision of our boss, Hongy, the mastermind of the project. And I'm really, really proud to be part of this really wonderful and meaningful project that remind all of us of the humble kopitiam and our past and our roots. So hello everybody, my name is Kai Yi, as known as Unreality Kai. I'm the designer, full-time designer at Studio Red Hongy by day, and by night I'm a digital artist. So same as Chee, I took my part 1 in UC University and my part 2 in University of Sheffield in UK. And this is my final year project. I did this for my thesis. So it's called the Energy Proposal. And where we imagine, the far future, not very far, like to 2050, the future, we're not going to be using like banknotes or paper as currency. There's no US dollar, there's no Malaysian ringgit anymore. Everyone uses one currency, it's called energy. So it's called energy currency. Okay, it's not very crazy, but architecture could be crazy. And yeah, I think it's very much inspired by Bitcoin and blockchain, and it is very, let's not talk about the crypto just yet, save it for later, okay? So what my biggest takeaway from this project is that we can actually see the world to their architecture lens from different angle. And it allows us to speculate the future and also to imagine what the future could be. And also throughout my architecture journey, I realized there's a lot of things architecture can do, and also a lot of things architecture cannot do. So what I mean by that is like we can be fantastical. We want to do this. We can imagine the utopia, whatnot, blah blah blah. But the real world, we couldn't actually build them at this stage yet. So. But I keep wondering that how do I keep that craziness, that fantastical ideas of me that intact even after graduation. So apparently after graduation is the right moment, is the right time of the peak of that pandemic outburst. What a great timing, right? So I couldn't get the job, and I was like, GG. No job. My parents was like so anxious. It's like, oh, why you come back at this moment? Because I studied in UK and I come back at the wrong timing. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. My life is done. No job, no more architect. Okay, what am I gonna do? So I was thinking, okay, maybe I need to change the gear, switch up a bit, take a different path. I want to do let's do something different this time. So I decided to send, because Hongy is like recruiting members. So I was like, okay, let's give it a go and send my application to Red and see whether she wants me lah. So apparently she took me in, thank goodness. So after working for her for quite some time, she was like pushing us to produce our own thing. So for the upcoming exhibition, so under some pressure, I mean healthy pressure, I started to form my own studio, small studio called Unreality. So with the architecture knowledge that I acquired, I started to venture into different things such as digital art, art mahjong design, and interior design. Yeah, this is the exhibition I was talking about that just happened a few months ago in April, titled Thank God It's Monday. it's not Monday blue because every Monday we get to take a day off and then to explore what we really interested in, to explore our personal passion project. So our Monday is pretty fun. So in our team, I know that like every one of us have our own strengths, but this exhibition kind of like give us a better idea of what our strengths are and what we're good at. And it gives us the exhibition gives us absolute freedom of what we want to do, and also push our own boundaries. So what I like about this studio is the culture. So apart from assisting Hongy to materialize her vision, we are very, very encouraged to explore our own interests and also to really see our own forte and to amplify our own strength. And I really, really love that and really appreciate Hongy's effort to make this happen. And what most important in the creative industry, I think that it's very important for us to keep on that, the idea of exploring and also keep on trying new things. I think trying new things is the most important thing to practice in creative industry because it's the key thing to keep that creativity alive. Yeah, and this is what I did for the passion project. So this is called Mahjong project, and it's inspired by Malaysian food and culture. Look at those. That is cendol, and then there is some other food. And how I started this project is like because I came back from UK and my sister started to teach me how to play mahjong because we are like stranded in our own house, so nothing can do, so play mahjong lor. And then we started to have this conversation. It's like it goes like this: like why mahjong only circulates within Chinese community, and even though it's only been around in Malaysia more than 100 years, it only circulates in Chinese community. Is it because of not accessible or people don't understand it? So the idea is the big vision of the project is to bring around different races and sit together and play this game. So that's why every single mahjong tiles, they are inspired by local culture. So I did this using Illustrator, AutoCAD, and LaserCAD. So it's very architectural project. If I were able to time travel back to my uni days, my undergrad days, and tell my younger self that, oh, maybe in the future you're not gonna be an architect, you're gonna be making mahjong, I probably think this guy will be bullshitting lah. And next up we have NFT. I think everybody's been waiting for this topic. Okay, it's such an omnipresent term nowadays. NFT. Everybody talking about NFT. Everybody talking about crypto art, cryptocurrency and stuff. But what is NFT exactly? It means non-fungible token, but what does that even mean? So I probably need to take about 5 to 10 hours to talk about this. Nobody had time for that. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just going to talk about how NFT is so important and how it affects our industry. To make this simple, how industry works, I'm going to simply tell you how industry works in real life. It's actually very similar to how it operates in the virtual world. So art, there's actually people, why would people buy art in the first place? There's a few reasons. Firstly, people really like your art. Or secondly, they want to invest. And thirdly, they just want to flip it. Flip, which means not flip lah. It's like they quickly buy your art and then they quickly sell it and then they earn the profit in between. So apparently the reason is very obvious. So again, why would so many artists want to be a part of the NFT community? What's so good about NFT art? What's in it for artists? So there's one thing that we differentiate NFT or crypto art than real art is the one thing is called royalty fee. Royalty fee, which means that every time there's a transaction of your artwork or every time you sell the artwork, you get a percentage. You can set the percentage. Let's say I set the percentage is 10%. So every time you sell the artwork, like for example, like 1,000 ringgit, and then you get 100 ringgit, right? Yeah, get 100 ringgit. Yeah, this kind of concept. So you can control how much profit you want to get for every transaction. So that is something that the royalty fee, I think there's some little something that makes all the artists really, really happy and feel appreciated. Yeah, who doesn't love that? Okay, so let's say one day one day, if you get really popular, let's say Hongy, and then your artwork gets like balloon really fast, and then it sells like millions, like it changes hand really, really quickly. And you can get, if you do it in NFT, you can get like 10% each transaction. So, and you can get quite a big piece of that cake. Yeah, isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Some of you might ask, okay, if I want the artwork in digital file, can I just download it from Google? Okay, this is not digital. Okay, what Hongy did for the Doge is like it comes with a physical piece. Of course, when you buy NFT, you get a digital file and also a physical piece, and that's fine. But a lot of NFT, they only comes with digital file. So you might ask, can I just download it from Google? Of course you can, but the file you downloaded from Google is actually a pirated version because it's not registered in the blockchain. So it's pirated version also, no one really cares if you download anything from Google. So another question is, okay, let's say today I bought an NFT art, a digital art. Let's say it's not tangible art, it's not physical art. Okay, I use like maybe 1,000 ringgit to buy the piece. So how the heck do I hang it on my wall? It's digital, ma. So how do I do that? Do I print it out? Of course you can print it out. Or what you can do is you own a virtual land in the virtual world and build a virtual house and put your virtual art in your virtual house. That's a more proper way to do it. Okay, you might think, oh, that's ridiculous, it's nonsense, but the truth is people are already doing this. Okay, I'm not making this up. And who might know that might be our future, because like architects are building things virtually, and we are actually slowly marching to that realm, to digital realm. So we have to be really aware that digital realm might be the future. So as a graduate architect, how did I end up becoming an NFT artist? Again, thank you for Hongy. How I started is through the Thank God It's Monday exhibition. As you can see, I'm a big fan of architecture, and I'm still a big fan of architecture, and that's why my work is heavily influenced by architecture. And I really wanna express my thought and my creativity through architecture, but I have no client, I have no money, I have no budget. How do I, release my creativity? I can't do that, right? So what I do is, but what I have, the resources I have is my creativity and my freedom and my laptop. So what I can do is do digital art. It's free, no resource. I only can use electricity. That is how I started doing digital art. And these are the first series that I launched, and they are almost like a reminder of why we should resist the invasion of international style architecture and uphold the beauty of vernacular architecture and our beautiful local culture. From concepts to ideation to software skills, details, aesthetics, and so on. These are the knowledge that I acquired from architecture industry, and I migrate all this knowledge to art industry. So basically, it's like how I make use of or harness the knowledge that I have and make good use in the other industry. And I'm really happy that I actually found my place in NFT market, and I could actually make a living out of it. And that's a myth saying architecture is half science and half art. But in reality, I think it's pure science lah. But for me, I think architecture also can be pure art. And finally, I strongly believe that architecture is about bringing social goods and create a better future for the society. But little did we know that art can do that too. And the power of art could be equally impactful as architecture. Yeah, and next up, I would like to invite Annice to continue the talk.
Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Annice. Yeah, I think before I continue on, so I would just like to say thank you for I think Chung and Kai Yi and Hongy for graciously sharing as well, and with the incredible team. But more so, I would like to thank you guys so far for still hanging in there. I'm sure you guys are partially hungry, but we won't end in starvation here. This is not Squid Game, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, thanks for shipping out your time tonight for joining us. And yes, again, my name is Annice. I majored in architecture. I was architecturally trained, and currently I turned a documentary photographer and a sports photographer. But currently now in my professional practice, I am a photojournalist and who visually documents stories that resonate with its topics of critical importance. And aside for that, I have been documenting Hongy's and her team's projects since towards the end of last year, and of course throughout the years. And slowly, as we go on, as you journey along through various of slides, and more so like from just now, the photos they show, I would kindly explain that why, aside from projects and work and other than our professional practice, that why is documentation is so important. So yes, like I say, before working as a photographer, I was architecturally trained. I graduated in UCSI, University College Sedaya International, where I mastered when I did obtain my BSc Hons Architecture Technology, which I really enjoyed. Yeah, so it is through architecture that I find passions in photography, like recognizing the influence of how architecture plays in the my current professional practice in terms of how it changes my perspective and how it plays a role in my architecture journey. So I think one of the blessing in architecture is like, I think pretty much like my parents and like anyone or even my fellow lecturers would say that, why photography? What makes you make that jump, make that leap? So for me, it's how I obtained through, how I found the sparks throughout my love for photography is basically during architecture, where basically we have to be our own COE. What is COE, you guys may say? Chief of everything, where you have to pitch to your lectures, from ideations to designs, be semi-savvy, jack of all trades of all the software you have, CAD, SketchUp, Lumion and everything. So that's where, for me, I would like to transposing my manual sketches into digital software, and slowly from that throughout, when we finish all our designs and stuff, that's where modeling comes in as well. You build your models through it, as humble as through melting boards, through cards, and towards the end, when you put everything together, it's where you learn about the perspective, where during certain phases in time when you not have software, you would have to take pictures of your model. So that's where, as humble as it begins, from putting 2 manila cards from vertical and horizontally, and then taking your table lamps to actually try to find the perfect lighting. So at the bottom is where I actually found out that taking pictures really contributes to your boards and to your idea, to bring idea to life, and to basically use photo as a form of communications to basically tell people that why you do what you do and to show them. So I think as years gallop by, I find myself in terms of the passion in photography go more fondly, and soon I realized that the things that we have learned are really simply not in vain, that being that my fundamental practices from architecture. So I'm a self-taught photographer. So throughout the years, I don't believe I just graduated in UCSI as well. In terms of photography, self-taught, I quickly find myself graduated in the University of Google and YouTube as well. So I obtained while majoring, and these are the things that I find during site visits. So as I follow my lectures, my school site visits, or even during my time as a architect assistant on ground, I learn about the beauty of lights, shadows, modern architecture, vernacular architectures, spatial organization, and so. I think quickly as I learned that one of my lecturer actually did encourage me that, not my lecturer, my lecturer, then after that my supervisor and my boss, who is Mr. Melvin, when I served quite an amount of time at Atelier Alente Architects. So he's the one who actually encouraged me. So I can't stress enough to say that being a leader, you have a responsibility of being a leader, and it's a ripple effect as we go on. So being a leader as he is, he told me that what you have, it's basically God gives to you, and what you do with it is your gift to God. So you own it to the people that really doesn't have the opportunity and you have. So why not you pursue it, you pursue on and try this path. So for me, when it comes to this photo in particular, this is 2019. So I graduated in 2015. I did my practices in 2016, 2017, and 2018, I got accredited to the Pyeongchang Olympic. That's where when I come in on a flight, I realized that this is something that bigger than me that I really want to do. So long story short, how I got accredited is aside from architecture, I was a former national figure skater as well, which that explained why I had a job documenting and covering Pyeongchang, the Winter Olympics. So as we come back using photography and architecture, that the skills and the fundamental sets, that the base value you have, this is the exact photo that I have. This is the photo that really solidifies that everything is well, and it's one of the photos I'm incredibly proud of coming as someone who graduated in architecture. This is actually in 2019 during Ramadan time where I was working under Associated Press. So this photo was being classified by Associated Press by the World Best Photo. It was shot during Ramadan time where I don't think that without the background of architecture, this photo would not happen. That being said, it's through the influences of looking things differently in how you pan the cameras down, in terms of new perspective, exploring details at the peak of the moment. So this is basically when I take photo, this is how I see things based on what I've learned, or based on what I come from. That in that moment in time, in a click of a moment, everything that comes to my mind is the principle of order in architecture that translate through the visual we photograph. That being said, such as axis, symmetry, hierarchy, datum, rhythm, repetition, and transformation. So same goes to this photo as well. This was taken, this photo basically sums up our Chinese New Year this year, unfortunately. This photo was featured on Guardian. I was on assignment for Getty Images for a lockdown Chinese New Year. So aside from I think experiencing form and spaces in a building, I tend to see things in shapes as well. And while photographing, one thing I love about photography that I really can relate in architecture is that architecture and photography, they have a similar traits in terms of it is a coalescence of technicality and artistry. So you get your fundamentals right, you get your basics right, and then the artistry side is more of letting the moment and the magic works. So that's photography that sets that it really enables me to communicate with others through, I think through visual as a universal language. So I think over the years, graduated from architecture, I do believe that imagery has a voice with the ability to narrate the past and construct the future that is visible and transformative. So I think same as architecture, when we compose, but we want to tell people like what it matters. We are problem solvers. But for me, on the other hand, I grew up as an introvert, so I realized that photography can act as a medium as well for me to communicate others and to send a message across, and perhaps along the way with any people extraordinary encounters I met could somehow potentially to touch others' life as well. So aside from imagery has a voice, I also do believe that photography has the power and magnitude to inform, reform, impact, and unite people. I think same goes to what you guys are practicing and basically why you guys are here as well and continue doing. So that being said, that photography able to reform, inform, impact, and unite others, I believe that photography really, on the other hand, holds no boundary in regards to anyone's social status, be it covering the glories of the Olympic, which I'm so honored to be able to do that for covering the Malaysian contingent earlier this July. And in the meantime, on the other hand, photography also allows you not just cover the glories of the Olympic, it also allows you to find yourself in places which cover the complexity of vaccination program in rural area in Borneo. So I think above all, working with a team. So the projects above is pretty much more like a loner. So I think there's only, like you say, there's only so far we can go. So for me, aside from commissions work, where I come from is I learn from the team that it is important as well, like what Kai Yi said or what Chee did, to have a piece of magic, a piece of mystery, to have personal projects. So that really transcend in the working culture among us, so that while all of us, since I think Hongy really did take a leap of faith, assemble the team since last year, but while all of us are collectively working towards her vision or client's requirement, but it's nice also to know that we have personal projects, so that when it all comes together, I can know that, oh, you know, what Kai Yi is doing, what Chee is good at, stuff like that. So I do so believe as well the importance of personal project, to have a piece of mystery and magic to yourself and to potentially show the world. So in this case, my personal ongoing project, it's Faces of the Heartland, which is a series of making environmental portraits and stories that focus on tradesmen and proprietors of old-skill trades and craft that may not well survive in the next generation. So what I do is I photograph each and every vendor in their professional practice. They may not that their generation, maybe their grandchildren or their sons and daughter may not take over, and to preserve that. So I started off with my optometrist first, but lucky for him, his children is taking over. And Ratan uncle, and to in the meantime hear about their stories. It's not just like something that we just show up, take a picture, and just leave. So I do think that aside from being a photographer, taking pictures in the digital world, like digital rendering and stuff, I don't think is enough per se. So I think turning them into other mediums such as postcard, able to connect with others and educate others would be great as well. So currently these postcards are available. If any of you are interested, just reach out later. So various different mediums. And I guess another thing is putting your work out there. In terms of exhibition, getting yourself out there, that's something that I learned as well. It's not something that is narcissistic per se, but it's something that actually boosts you in terms of confidence and to actually build yourself out. So I guess through exhibition, it's how Hongy and I encounter, it's how I met, how I have a wonderful opportunity working with the team. So I think in last year, in September 2020, for me, I exhibit a series of old proprietary tradesmen at Tommy Le Baker, and just so happened, like, you know, a chance of encounter that Hongy works of the true treasure of her grandparents were there as well. So through that, you will never know that, you know, on who you're gonna meet on a daily basis. You wake up not knowing what you're gonna do or who you're gonna meet. So it's from there where we form a collaborations. So here's the thing. So through that, knowing that we decided to collaborate, to work together, and that's where we quickly realized, and I think Hongy realized as well, the importance of documenting projects. So for ladies and gentlemen tonight, or for anyone in the universe of internet, I can't stress enough that the importance of documenting project is so important, because I think, like, doesn't matter if it's interior work or architecture work, you're facing projects who like 3 to 5 years or more so, or months. So I think documenting projects, whatever you do, think about it as a journey in a pixelated form, and it is a testament of looking back and seeing how far you have come, your team, your contractors, your peers of doing, and transpose them into a series of archives and towards of the end of completion, and basically see how far you have come. So that being said, we start off with the first project. I think Hongy so kindly shared just now, which is this one was commissioned by Hoshen. It's one of the two pieces of artwork, which is Look to the Mountains, as well as Fish Imprints, where we explore like We explore the cuts of vegetables and the fish textures. So I think in other words, also looking at this, it is very refreshing to know that looking at all these photos in collages, that they're actually daily, basically daily elements and particles that often we would just overlook. So it is really eye-opening that what are these like simple things in daily life that can actually make to potentially make something and to be bigger. So I think in another words is, yeah, guys, pay attention at Pendidikan Seni as well. So yes, so throughout this process, it is really interesting to see how it started, why it started, and how Hongy and Kai Yi and Chee and Cedric, which is behind our work with the team, how everyone just find the joys in doing. And to, I think, at the end has a sense of satisfactory to see everything come to fruition. This is another project that we work on, which is the latest project about the tea bags. So I think each project allowed us to unlock the curiosity in order to tackle issues, and I think to do it justice as well, as when a project comes, we wanted to know a story is about true storytelling as well. And I think that often we need to know that when people tell you story, they are truly trusting their life story to you, and we need to do them justice to actually and basically do a good job and to honor that. So I think for me, when it comes to photography, I was commissioned to do this as well at a very, very beginning phase of the Kopitiam Uncle tea bags. So in order to do that, I think our first phase is more like ideation, getting the brief, ideations, research a lot. So I was set out to do I think of what a photojournalist would do at its best, and to play with my strength is to find out why. So for me, when it comes to photography, I love applying the 5W and 1H, which is what is happening now? What is this project about? When did this project happen? Where did it take place? And who is this project about? Why did it happen? And overall, how do we go about this? And here are the essence and collages of photos I took to basically not just in terms of documentation, but hopefully these visuals also to inspire the team and to put together to inspire the client as well, to basically why are we doing this? And it's not just something that we pluck from the sky and say we want to do this and we want to do this. And then from that on, documentation is where we continue to document the process of it, like how the beauty of the texture, the colors of the tea bags, like I think knowing the sense of place and also the sense of smell as well. Like what Kai Yi so graciously said, that while we are doing it, it's no doubt that the entire warehouse was really filled with the smells that continue. It is very laborious, but it continues to push us to continue to do so. And this is the uncle copy that it was taken, and then this is as an inspiration, and this is the actual one. And this is us on a self-timer, and yeah, and that's Hongy right there. So yeah, the importance of documenting work is just a journey along. So, you know, I think with so much things going on nowadays, like when you work, sometimes you may have conflict with your clients or anyone, and we just get swept up so much. So I do think that having someone to document any of your project or any ongoing project out there, aside from just using the phone, is very important, because it shows the cohesiveness and the consistency, and someone to actually in your team to look through in a really through one perspective. And I think this is one of the projects that it was so monumental in the entire team, as well as for Hongy herself. And I think photography also breathed identity to it, and to continue to show people like So overall, holistically, the project came to us. It took us 2 months to prepare everything from start A to Z, and took us 2 weeks to actually put in the matchsticks in the holes. And basically, it took us 2 minutes to 15 minutes to see everything go in flames. So I think what photography really comes in to see that while the artists, I think the team has really done their best for 2 weeks. Everything has planned prior to burning. And then this is where the art of photography and videographer come in to immortalize everything. And then, yeah. Yeah, so this is I think the photos on your right is the original photo. And for previously, so we gave, from a photographer perspective, we try our best to document because we understand that how hard the team has worked. And on that day, the team is basically, what they do is they are literally watching some sort of like a mixed medium performance arts. Everything that burns then flash across their eyes. And on that day, the crucial ones are the videographers and photographers for doing our best to first not just immortalize them, to record and document everything down. So through that, we supply a group mixture of final edits to the editor. And it's really interesting for the editors to actually, at the end, pick these photos. It's because I think there's no Photoshop or no Photoshop involved as well. What you see is the actually burning piece. And I think it's really nice that the photo actually, when the editor pick it, it makes total sense because you can see the hands are actually reaching out to actually start the fire, because the hand is our hands and we hold our actions accountable. So I think overall is we destroy Earth, but we also have to know that it is us who can restore as well. I think lastly, as you guys go, I do believe that finding your passion and purpose is important. So don't lose that at all. And I think don't do it alone. Just work together. Because everybody comes from different background. I think work with the people, hire the people that you think is your weakness, but you hire them as your strength. So I guess, yeah, to wrap it up, that's about it.
Thank you to Hongy and her team. I think I speak for everyone in saying that we all feel very inspired looking at all these art and all the talks they have given. You all agree? Yeah. So let's give them another round of applause. So now we have come to our Q&A session. So now I would like to invite the speakers today to come on stage, as well as Architect Boon, who will be conducting this Q&A session. So for all of our viewers on Zoom, do post your questions to the Q&A tab. We'll try and answer as much as possible. So for our audiences today as well, get ready with your questions. We'll come around. And so yeah, let me invite our speakers up on stage. Thank you.
Hi, Hongy, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Hi.
Okay, thank you very much. I will repeat what Scarlett was actually mentioning just now. Thank you to Hongy, 𝗔𝗥𝗖𝗛𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗘 as well as Annice for sharing. To me, that is clearly also an architectural journey as well. I'm also inspired by Hongy's approach to personal projects. I will probably address that in a little while if I have time. Perhaps maybe just a question to Hongy first. Okay, just a quick question to Hongy first. Hongy, any plan to expand your studio and any age limit? I'm asking for a friend.
Can you hear me well, by the way?
Yes, very well.
Oh, okay, right. So this is, I guess, my first time working with a big team, and it's been, I guess, a new thing for me. I think I'm good with roughly this size. No plans turning it into Studio Olafur Eliasson at 100 people. I don't think that's that's my aim. I think it's been really nice to keep it to a small team and working on projects at this scale at the moment. Age range, I'm open to all sorts of age range. If they're interested in what I'm doing, and also if I guess skill sets wise, it's also something that aligns, and then yeah, I'm not averse to anything.
Okay, good. I'll tell that friend to start preparing his CV. Probably answer the questions that have actually have came through in the Q&A on Zoom. And this is probably the questions that most practicing architects are actually asking now at the moment. The question is actually, Ms. Hongy, how much different are as an artist income compared to an architect? Which one in your view is more lucrative?
Well, I don't think, I think I need to talk to like Dr. Tan and all that, because I don't know how much they're earning. So I cannot compare. I'm sure it's a lot more than me. But yeah, I guess it's a whole different thing, and it ranges. I mean, if you're talking about as an employer, I guess it really depends on how you're managing the company and what projects you take and all that. So yeah, so I cannot give you a definitive answer. I need to talk to Dr. Tan.
Or Dr. Izumi as well.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question here. I think this one probably came in before Annie's presentation. Maybe you'd like to add on to this as well. It says here, just wondering how your artwork relate to the green theme of Klaf. I recall you mentioned a lot in the video in the making of the Time project. Hongy, would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, so I think the Time project is something that's pretty obvious to everybody. That is so how that came about was about 3 years ago. Another friend and I, Kenji, we worked on an artwork involving burning matches as well, to address the issue of climate change and how the Bornean forests were burning. It features 2 orangutans. So I sent that to Time magazine. And 3 years later, I think the creative director still remembers that, I guess, that artwork. So he said, we're working on a climate related issue. Would you like to be a part of it? And of course, I said yes, because that's a huge honor to be able to create that, to create awareness for it. But internally within our team, I think when we started to work on that project, we asked ourselves as well, how are we walking the talk? I think that was when someone suggested meatless Mondays or meatless Tuesdays or something like that. So for a while we were doing that. I think recently we've probably like forgotten that a bit, but we're probably going to go back to it. But we definitely discussed that. We discussed about like recycling our own waste, and then like sectioning out like the plastics and all that kind of thing. And I think even with I know this is a bit of a hot topic at the moment, but even with NFTs, I do believe that it also makes a lot of things a lot more efficient. We are going to, I think with digital visuals and artworks, we will be reducing on shipping, on storage, on transportation, and even materials. So I think that's another way to look at it. And if we're open to these new changes and how these technology will help us work towards a greener future, I think that would be something that is good for us as well.
Thank you. Any question from the floor before I take another one? Okay, towards the end. Yes, go ahead.
Hello. Hi. I'm gonna sit. I feel. This question, I guess, is knowing the power of art and architecture. So let's say we solve the climate crisis now. Someone else in the future is gonna get greedy again, and then it's gonna spark this whole crisis again. With the power and tools of art and architecture, what would be the step to
steer away from capitalism to solve this instead of repeating that cycle. My voice is shaking. I am shivering in my bones. It is very cold.
Hongy, did you get that?
Could you repeat that question again?
So she's asking that if we do solve the climate crisis right now, capitalism will still continue on and someone's going to continue this whole cycle. So what can we do now to stop capitalism in a way or prevent this cycle from happening again?
Right.
Save the earth.
Right. I think that having that mindset is to, I think, assume that that will take place. And that is also a perspective of the world that we have, that individually that we have that might not necessarily be true. So I think if we can solve what we have today, I think that would solve things in the future. And having faith in future generations and raising that awareness for future generations would mean that they would start thinking about how to solve these issues. So I think raising that awareness and having future generations be very educated and mindful about potential problems or and their responsibilities and our responsibilities as well, I think will help us in the future. So I think that is something that that would be good to have in mind, but it shouldn't. I personally feel it shouldn't make us. I think we shouldn't probably worry about what might or might not potentially happen, but solve what we can do today.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, it's the same approach that we have actually been adopting at Green Building Index as well. We just address one building at a time. Doing it now is better than planning it to do it tomorrow as well. Maybe the rest of the future generations on stage here would like to respond to this as well.
Hello. Oh, thank you for the question. I think as like what you say, younger generations, like I really resonate with what you taught us just now. I may butcher wrong the 4 terms that really stood out. The REAL, which is research, right? Yeah, research, educations, advocacy, and learning, is it? Like, yeah. Oh, really? I got it right? Oh, thanks. So yeah, I think like what you're doing, you're actually educating us. So what we're doing our best that what other, like regardless what others are doing, we can control what others are doing, but what we can control in terms of the capacity is what we should start practicing as well. Yeah, I hope I answered that.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from the floor? Yes, one more.
Hi. I actually disagree with the part where you mentioned that NFT is environmental friendly. I'm sure you're well aware with the environmental effects of NFT. Try to explain more about it.
Yeah, I am, and I think there is a lot of debate about it, which is why I was a little bit unsure about bringing it up. But I do believe that I think with how we're working on say crypto and blockchain and all that, it will replace a lot of traditional systems, and a lot of the systems will be updated. So currently, a lot of the main systems are running on proof of work. Ethereum itself, which is the main blockchain that is used for Ethereum for NFTs, will be upgraded to proof of stake, and that would reduce energy usage by a lot, by 99%. And I also believe that there is a lot of data with the banking industry, with galleries, with exhibitions that we're not seeing. There is no solid number for that. Whereas with NFTs, with blockchain and all, there is very defined data for that. So I also believe that because it's a hot topic right now, everyone's jumping on it, but no one's talking about, oh, the so-and-so exhibition at Christie's, the physical artwork that was sold for this amount, how much energy was wasted on that as well. There is shipment, there is like flights, there's storage, there's a lot of other things. So I believe that there is, of course, it's very important to talk about this, to talk about how we are trying to create a better future to make it more efficient. But I think that there is a lot more data that we should be looking at. And I think with the way media works sometimes, it can also be quite like it highlights like the headlines a lot of you hear about NFTs always right now about like what they're doing and all that. You're not hearing about the traditional markets anymore. So I think there is a lot of debate about it, but I also believe in the technology itself. The tech itself is not the thing that is destroying the future. The tech itself is something that's very important that I do believe will make things more efficient. So that's my standpoint.
Thank you, Hongy. Agree that the debate will continue, but your NFT project basically have actually done both the physical as well as digital versions, whereas Chee has focused on the digital artwork currently. Hongy, on your side, do you think there will be more and more artwork turning into digital rather than physical?
I think there would be a mixture. Yeah, I think there would be a mixture for sure. I don't think that this would mean that the traditional side should go away. I believe that it would introduce a new realm. So there should be a mixture of both sides as well.
Going along with this as well, we have read that you were listed as by Sotheby's as 11 of the business entrepreneurs in the art world that we should take notice of. Do you think that your inclinations to this is actually in line with that as well? That means more and more artists need to be business savvy in order to create more artwork.
I think it is important because I think if you're an artist, you're kind of you're your own boss, and you're essentially trying to make a living out of what you do. So I think it is important to know a little bit, to be educated about it, so that it would work out for you. So you would be able to continue creating artworks and to be able to make a living as well.
Thank you. We will come back. We'll take another questions with regards to art and architecture as well, and the way how architect is actually turning into artists as well. The question is actually from, I believe, from Facebook, right? It says here, being able to thoroughly incorporate art into architecture is like a dream come true for all of us, building designers. How do you see yourself and your company ambitions in 10 years from now? Maybe, would you like to start with that, Hongy?
Sorry, the line was choppy. Would you be able to repeat
It says, how do you see yourself and your company's ambition in 10 years from now by incorporating art into architecture?
I think the next 10 years, so I think I've done this for about 10 years already, and it was quite a solo journey for me the last 10 years. Occasionally I would have freelancers jump on board to help me out. But the next 10 years, I'll definitely probably with this as the start, having a team around me will define the next 10 years, and I will be working with a lot of designers and architects as well. So I think that would be pretty exciting moving forward.
Thank you. Maybe now we turn to my questions about personal projects. The way that you have actually encouraged your team to actually explore their personal projects reminds me of the working environment in Google and in Apple as well, where a lot of the apps that we are currently seeing now actually came through from personal projects of the engineers and the team in. I think they encourage people to actually basically take one day or even 1 month per year to actually explore their own personal projects. We heard earlier that you were encouraged to actually go on with your art projects by your mentor or your boss in Shanghai. Do you think the way that you are encouraging your team to do this now was actually inspired by how you have benefited from that as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think about like my because that was the only firm that I worked for after graduating. When I was a student, I did intern for a bit. but I was with that firm for a year and a half, almost 2 years, I think. And I guess that's really set the foundation for what is a good working culture. What is it like to have a good project manager, and then also ultimately a good employer. And I was lucky that my employer, my boss at the time, really set a good example. So I do think about that a lot.
That sort of maybe allowed me to make a personal note on this as well. I think Dr. Tan mentioned just now, this year, we are actually having a revisit or exhibition of a project that was done during my presidency. It is called the 30 under 40 architects. The intention is basically for us in PAM, as well as the more senior members of the architectural community, to actually showcase the up and coming younger architects as well to the rest of the building industry. But what disappointed me, or actually there was a lot of even comment or criticism from the senior members of the firms at that time, is actually almost none of the architects that we have actually profiled actually came from any of the bigger firms. What happened was actually that a lot of them were not encouraged to actually showcase themselves as up and coming young architects when they were working in the big firms. Probably with how Hongy have actually encouraged her young team to develop their own personal projects. It can be a message to the rest of the architectural firms as well. You know, I don't think you lose much by promoting your own younger architects within the firms. This as well. Two maybe a quick questions to Kai Yi and Chee Chong as well. Because unlike Hongy and probably Annice, the two of you had a GG moments when you finished your architectural course. Do you think you will still pursue this course if you have been employed almost immediately after your graduation?
Can I go first? You mean stay in the art industry or like go back to architecture?
Yeah, whether you will go along in terms of arts, actually.
Personally, I feel like what Hongy mentioned just now is like how I pick whether I should go architecture and art is actually more. It's like, okay, partially it's because of my passion. I really love to be creative. The opportunity to be freedom to create what I like. And another half is because of the working culture that I aiming for. So so I feel like working in art really gives us a lot of freedom to express, even though it's a bit, people like my parents always think like working in art industry is super risky, that you will die because you can't like earn anything. But I think that's not entirely true. And I feel like so far I've been doing quite okay. It's like I have a good boss. I'm being paid quite handsomely. I feel like not like
Oh wow.
at least the whole culture, like studio culture, is like really encouraging. And our boss here always encourages us to explore our own things, create our own identity, and hoping us to form our own studio, do our own thing in the future. I think that it kind of create a ripple effect from Hongy boss, and then to Hongy, and then now to me. So I really want to carry this good ethos, and then if next time I have a studio, then I can do the same as well. And then just now we mentioned whether you should whether I should choose architecture or art. And then my answer is why not both. If I have opportunity, like someone else asked me to build not a house but some kind of installation or some kind of like architect or structure, I will be happy to take that. I wouldn't say, oh, I'm an artist now, I didn't do architecture stuff. I wouldn't say that. I will really happy to take any opportunity out there. Yeah, and then because every opportunity is a goal, right? It's a kind of like turning point for me. Yeah. So Chee Chong, do you want to go?
Yeah. I mean, the day when I came back, why do I go to search around architecture job is because it's reality. that just what sort of like studying for so many years and giving up will be such a waste. But then I do look around a lot, like different profession, like maybe landscape architecture or facade design, something that I think something that aligned to my interest, which is more like structure stuff and maybe working hands-on and doing a lot of carpentry, which I started doing since in how many years ago? Yeah. About if I want to go back to architecture, I mean, if there's a chance, I still enjoy designing buildings, but then I do enjoy what I'm doing now also. Yeah.
Would you like go back to like architecture firm? Sorry, I have to ask this.
Depends.
You just asked the question that I want to pose as well.
I think caveat, I talk to them, I have like a one-on-one with them every few months or so. And I do tell them that if architecture is your like in your future, please do let me know and do go for it. Like there's no don't feel bad that you have to be like, it's not like I'm gonna chain you here. But if that's in your future, I would support you. And like if you need to do that, you need your hours for architecture to get your license also. So do go for it. But yeah, so I guess just a little side note.
What about yourself, Hongy?
It would be great to take up some architecture projects in the future, but I know that if I want to do this well, I should focus on this. So this is my main focus right now.
Okay, thank you. Let's turn to the floor. Any more questions from the floor? Somebody's eye just opened very wide when it was mentioned that Hongy is playing very well.
My eyes also opened very wide.
Okay, there's a lot of questions coming through. Some of them I can't understand, but probably I'll go to a very technical question first to Annice. It says, what is your favorite camera to work with?
Well, I believe that when it comes to camera is ultimately camera is a tool. You know, I think you would ask yourself that, what is your favorite pen to actually do for drafting? Or I will ask Hongy, what's her favorite brand of paintbrush to actually do? So yeah, that's the thing. Exactly, that's the thing. So I guess really comes back to the question is, what's my favorite camera? It's always, I started off with a handphone. So that slowly evolved with it because like I say, camera, there's no like anything in terms of brand nowadays. I'm really lucky to be affiliated to one. So doesn't matter if other primarily imaging brand, they all work great. And for me is that as long as it allows me to connect people and take one step in to actually do their life justice, and where the stories they share with me are trusted enough for me to actually explore, and then for me to document it through the art of photography, that is more than enough.
Okay, just continuing with that, and this question came from a prominent architect. Would journalism be your interest after this instead of feature photography?
Come again?
Would journalism be your interest from now on rather than feature photography?
I think photojournalism, it's an art of documenting things that happen in life. I think same goes to, for me, I find myself when it comes to photography, ultimately I get called back by my former bosses as well that so graciously asked me to document his current projects that started off with design phases to I think to construction, then to handover. So I think for photojournalism, there's no, I think how the world works that we tend to compartmentalize everyone. And for me, it's that I will continue to do photojournalism, whether it takes me to places such as sports or other genres or even architecture, I will still continue to do so if one willing to trust me and my eyes to continue to journey after on. That's my main focus right now. Like with the team, they trusted me enough to invite me to their life, first and foremost, to continue to document the work they are doing. And I think that that's a blessing in life, to have a front row seat to actually capture what are they doing. Because when you're so in the moment, be it you are designing, you're a contractor who assign your staff to do things, you won't actually see what's going on. And that's where I feel more than ever to feel obligated to, and last to actually come in to help you to translate your experiences into the form of photography.
Thank you. Hongy and the team as well, I'll probably rephrase these questions to ask, I think probably especially in relation to the time project as well. Any response from our country's leadership on that project so far that you have received?
Is that question for me?
Yes, or the team.
Okay, I'll let the team answer that.
Go ahead.
Can I have the question again? Sorry.
Any response from our country's leaders to any project that you have actually done, especially the time project?
I think in a way, not specifically the time project. Did anyone want to reply, answer this?
At the current state, not that we know of.
Yeah.
It would be great that if they ever encounter, they have something to say, that we would really want to know how the leaders react and to possibly amplify the work we do.
I think it was maybe probably the closest in a way it was Chandana. So they contacted us after the time project and asked if they could work with us to get, I guess, some creatives on board, like fresh grads on board through their grant program. So I guess that in a way that was, but not directly from the current leadership.
Okay, they are probably preoccupied. Any questions from the floor again to the team? Okay, there is one question here that is actually very general. I suppose we can all answer this together. Besides art and architecture, as architects, do you think there's any other way or any other profession or any other field that we can get involved in to actually address this climate crisis? I'll probably start with the younger generation first.
I think like this kind of social, environmental issue, we don't have to like pointing fingers like who held the most responsibility, I guess. Everyone holds the same amount of responsibility. So yeah, so we just do what we can do and do, just try our best to do what is the best for the earth and not rely on someone else to do it for you, because you can't possibly just expect other people to to take all the responsibility and you're just sitting there and pointing fingers. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, of the team.
I don't really have opinion to this. I think for me, it just everyone should just do their part in saving the earth. Yeah, we do practice a lot of like all these things in our studios. Recycle and yeah, I think that's all for me.
Annice?
I think aside from talking about it, taking initiation, put the talk to the walk. And I think everything starts, like what you say, as cliche as it sounds, everything starts from ourselves, but it's because through ourselves, we are able to impact others. So from yourself, it translates to your family, to your lifestyles, and then to work and get ourselves educated as well, and to pay attention to the news and what, whenever there's any talk coming out to get yourself educated, the resources is basically a click a button away.
And I think furthermore, as leaders who currently hold a great power and authority, I think they themselves have to hold accountable to their leadership and how they impact others.
Hongy, anything to add on your side?
I think individually, I think it would be good to be aware of our own actions, and also to be aware of, I think, just like the daily, like everyday little things that might add up. So I think one thing is, when I moved to KL last year, in the apartment that I was living in, there was no recycling bin. So where do we throw our plastics and things like that? So I do think that this has to be raised up to our leadership, and to have policy changes, because if people like individuals can't even sort out that trash, there's no facility for it. How can it be done on a bigger scale? So I think in terms of corporations, leadership in corporations and in government, things like this should be raised up.
Yeah, thank you. Be a tree planter, plant more trees, and going into farming as well. Maybe I'll start these questions with Hongy first. I've always believed that once you're an architect, you are always an architect, and that shows in the way that you have actually approached your artwork, and to the rest of the team as well, whether it's actually digital or whether it's actually photography as well. Do you have any advice for students who are actually currently doing the architectural coursework, or even for architects who is actually facing their GG moment currently?
I think this is, I mean, advice for myself as well, to not be afraid of change, and to always be ready to learn, to continue to learn, and to keep an open mind about the world around us. And I think what I used to like to do before I think COVID was, I think for architecture graduate exhibitions, I would like to visit to see what new things they're learning, because our future will be defined by future generations. So it's good to know what they're talking about, and what they're learning as well. So yeah, I guess that's my advice.
The rest of you? You are now seasoned enough to actually give advice to the rest of the graduates as well.
I actually got like questions, like people asking me, hey, then should I not be an architect anymore? Because I have like juniors asking me, because they think I'm like not doing architect now, like not in the practice. So I do believe that everyone has their own interests, just that I am not kind of like crazy and wild lah. So I really couldn't like sit in the office and like draw plans all the day. So but then we do have like people, like we have an interns here, Pang. I did ask him, like, do you want to continue work in architecture field after this? And he said, yes, I want to be tortured. And I mean, this kind of person do exist. I think we should really, just celebrate that what we really like, and then just go for it. Just trust your guts and do what you really like. Just perhaps I like architecture, but I just don't like the torturing culture. So I just, but then my advice is like, the architecture, like we are jacks of all trades. Is that the word? Jacks of all trades. Yeah. So we can do a lot of things. Just upon graduation, just don't die. Like, okay, I must be an architect or else I'm gonna die. It's like, it's okay to, take some challenges and then challenge yourself to do something else. Find your new passion. It might be a whole new world out there. So because life is not just revolves around architecture, even though, yeah, it sounds very cynical, but I do love architecture, but then there's a lot more that we can do, right? Sorry, I'm looking for validation. Okay, Chung should go.
I think for me, we always talk about architecture is just a skill set. I mean, why we join architecture is because there's something in it that align with our interests. For example, for me, I've always been like interested in building stuff and things. Then while studying, I realized that at the end, we don't even doing things with our hands. But then we do learn about ways or structure our skill into something that can do something else. Like, for example, if we would use like different software or tools to really draw up plans that things that we want to build rather than doing nothing at all.
Thank you.
For me, I guess that, when during our times in architecture, we are all given the same recipe. I would say the same education, the same recipe. Like, let's say if in life we need to adapt, you're given the same recipe to build a souffle, and throughout that, you have the ability to everybody have the same recipe in terms of the whisking times, the time they put in the oven. But it's up to us to actually, like, Kai Yi's souffle could be a strawberry, and Chee Cheng's one could be a chocolate, and mine could be a vanilla one. Just an analogy. And at the end of the day, we had the same recipe and we put it in the oven. Perhaps mine won't even rise, but somehow Kai Yi's one rises. So I think that as we go on in life and navigate through life, I would say that the fact that you're not happy where you are should be enough to strike you and motivate you to pursue something else. And with the skills and traits, 3 years, 4 years, 7 years practice or beyond that, just know that whatever your skills and the things you obtain and learn is never in vain. This is also how that applies to, as you continue to navigate through life, how it applies through life, and a dash of creativity sometimes won't hurt. Actually get to where you are, where you want.
Yeah. Actually, the same advice that I've been giving in a lot of career talks as well, of parents coming to me to ask me whether they will advise their children to actually take out an architectural course, because it's a very long course. Especially if they are going to countries where there is uncertainty whether you can actually get registered in the country or in another country. My advice would be that if there's an interest in architecture, just go ahead. The rest will come if you decide to actually choose that path, like what you have actually said.
I'm sorry, can I add a little something? Yeah, because I have people will say, hey, then architecture or not architecture. Well, I really do appreciate, I really do want people to pursue architecture still, or else there's no building, or then how? So we still need architects, okay? So don't be like, okay, architecture is all bad, but then we still need architects to make everything functional. Yeah.
Thank you for that confidence. I must add that I just realized that you don't like other people to torture you, but you don't mind torturing yourself.
Yeah.
That's why you're not preparing architectural course. There is a question which I probably will tie to a question that I have as well. Had there been any commissions that had failed, Hongy? And how do you deal with them? Because, I mean, you have done 2 works that you have shown with hassles that had not been built. You have done plenty of works that had not been built as well. So I see that basically as, has there been any commissions that had failed, or any attempt that you have done that has not materialized, and how do you deal with that? Maybe there's an advice to the younger architects as well.
I think Kai Yi can answer that for me, because I think in our one-on-one sessions, Kai Yi mentioned something like, oh, there were a few. So I get all of them to project lead for me. I assigned a project under each person to take care of. And then Kai Yi said something like, oh, I realized that those few projects didn't happen. And I was like, oh, it's totally fine, because I think out of 10 requests, usually I get 1 or 2, like 1 or 2 would materialize. So it's kind of, I mean, it's quite a common occurrence, I guess. I don't know if Kai Yi wanted to chip in.
Yeah, I kind of, because at first I thought, wow, Hongy is such a wonderful artist, like so popular, should get a lot of jobs, commissions. We do get quite a lot, shall I say at least? We do get quite a number of commissions project, and then Hongy assigned me quite a few of them, like say 10. But then like almost more than half of it, it just suddenly just call it off. I mean, suddenly they don't really like replying anymore. So I feel like, oh crap, did I did something wrong? Did I have a bad like a bad omen for the studio or something like that? So Hongy kind of explained that it happens a lot, that actually client approach you and then it might not materialize at the end. So I wouldn't say like 10, I wouldn't say out of 2 we do materialize. I would say like out of 10, maybe like 3 or 4, like almost half of them that actually doesn't get to materialize and give me an idea of, okay, it's fine. Maybe it's not me. It's the whole environment is like that. I don't know.
I think the 2 out of 10 is the stuff that he doesn't like. I think when the clients email me direct, I know some projects either don't are not in my skill set or don't align or are not my kind of project. So I do decline them right away. So the ones that get to the team are the ones that I'm interested in already. And then for various reasons, sometimes it's budget, sometimes it's clash of schedule, timeline, various reasons it doesn't happen. So it's quite common. It's also like, I think back in Hassel that happened to some of them as well.
Thank you. All of you definitely qualify to be architects because when I was studying in University of Melbourne as well, where Hongy came from, I was advised by a professor from another university, all of us, and said that to be an architect, you need to have the sense of humor, which all of you I realize have, because otherwise you will die alone. And frustrated because if you can't deal with the kind of rejections, it's very difficult to actually survive in the industry. How are we doing with time? Can I have one more question? Just a quick one. I've always wanted to ask this after having seen your time project, having experienced the adrenaline of actually burning down your artwork. Any plan for Burning Man?
I thought about it actually. A few friends and I, we were close to submitting a proposal, and then we kind of put it on hold. But that would be amazing. Maybe that would be a good project for us to work on.
Chee or Kai Yi just put a thumbs up, right? You're already planning for it.
Planning to travel to Nebraska, right? I think it's Nebraska.
Our finger.
Okay. Oh, okay. I've been given the time's up notice. Thank you very much, Hongy, for joining us. We'll catch up with you again when you return, and together with the rest of the team as well, Chee, Kai Yi, as well as Annice. I like to work with a young team because to me it's actually a learning process for myself as well, and especially when we get inspired with sessions like this. Thank you again to everyone, and to Klaf as well as to Pam.
Thank you everyone once again. To our Zoom audience, please remember to note down your sign-out code so you can get your CPT point. Thank you once again to our panelists. Thank you everyone for staying here today. Just a reminder, we have food downstairs. Have your food. I know everyone's hungry. I know I am. I'm sure you all are as well. And also, in conjunction, as what Architect Boon said, plant a tree. So take a plant it somewhere in the back garden, in a public park, whatever, plant a tree and save the earth. So once again, thank you everyone and have a good night.